It's hard to admit, but we love sequels. Catching up with our favorite heroes or going back to face an even greater threat is enough to make us play a similar game. Over time, however, some franchises lose their charm and further entries disappoint greatly. It's a challenge to end a good series, true, but it's better to go out with style rather than mediocre reviews and fan disappointment. Here are 10 series that we think need to end, for their own good.
But you're so supreme.
Number 10. Metal Gear Solid. Don't get us wrong, we're all Kojima fanboys at heart, but we dread the fact that Konami intends to carry on without the series creator. Despite our affection towards Metal Gear games, the plot and the storyline are convoluted and can alienate newcomers. That being said, the series should be concluded with a definitive final chapter. No more conspiracy theories, no more looming threats, no more clones, no more Metal Gears. The series seemed to have had a decent send-off with Guns of the Patriots, but no, they couldn't stop there. One can only hope that Phantom Pain will end the story of Big Boss the same way Metal Gear Solid 5 did for Old Snake. Otherwise, what's the point? If the franchise continues, as Konami says it will surely overstay its welcome. This veteran deserves to come home.
I will have my revenge!
9. God of War. The God of War trilogy was fun. Well, to be perfectly honest, God of War is one of the best franchises Sony owns. Still, after wrapping up with Part 3, nobody really seemed to know what to do with it. The PSP interquels and prequels were fun, and Ascension was just okay, but Kratos deserves more. Back in the day, a God of War game was something legendary. Every part of the trilogy was revolutionary in some way or the other, and was setting the bar for its contemporaries. The other God of War games were, well, just good games. We have fond memories of Kratos, and let's just hope Sony won't spoil them with other unnecessary games. The story is over, Kratos is dead, and they didn't live happily ever after. Eight. Assassin's Creed. The first Assassin's Creed showed much potential, but the repetitive nature of Altair's adventures and a few minor issues didn't exactly make it a Game of the Year contender. And then Assassin's Creed 2 came. Oh boy, were we excited about Assassin's Creed 2. The entire Ezio trilogy seems to be the peak of the series, with every sequel expanding a little bit on its predecessor and offering fun gameplay. Flash forward to 2015. Assassin's Creed Unity was one of the most disappointing games of the year, and we don't even want to play Syndicate at this point. Assassin's Creed is Ubisoft's flagship series, and that ship is slowly sinking. Ubisoft doesn't seem to have any idea for the series, spawning meaningless lore in form of comics, books and other games. The story of Desmond is over, and the latest installments are just retreads of what we liked back in 2008. First of all, the franchise needs a coherent story and a sense of continuation. That, or it has our permission to die. We all have a soft spot for Ubisoft, but at this point, they seem to be running the series into the ground. 7. Guitar Hero. The series was dead for a while, but then Activision decided it was about time to resurrect this once respected franchise and make it print more money. The reason that Guitar Hero craze died in the first place was the fact that Activision was releasing sequels on a yearly basis. The sales were slowly plummeting, and the fans started to get bored with buying new plastic controllers and uninspired sequels. Activision was so greedy that they made it bad for Harmonix, who was doing just fine with Rock Band, a wide selection of songs and new instruments every once in a while. Both Rock Band and Guitar Hero are set to come back this year, and we couldn't be more worried. First of all, both series have different guitars this time around, and that means we need to spend even more money on plastic controllers. Apart from that, there doesn't seem to be anything revolutionary about the new music games. It seems as if Activision purposely oversaturated the market back in the day and seemingly killed the franchise just to bring it back as a zombie one day to do its bidding. Please stop making music games a thing again. It's not gonna happen.
I'll find him.
What? Another Konami franchise? What are the odds? We still grieve after PT, but at this point, one thing can be certain. Konami has no sense of legacy and no appreciation of its franchises. In the recent years, Silent Hill has been tossed around from one random developer to the other with various results. Nevertheless, we still liked Silent Hill the movie, the game, Homecoming and Downpour. Even Shattered Memories was fun, but when we got our hands on the Book of Memories, that was it. PT seemed like something new, like a revolution worthy of the first game's legacy, but the game was cancelled. Just like with Metal Gear Solid, Konami assures us that the franchise will continue, and we pray it won't. Let's just look at the new Silent Hill-inspired pachinko machine. Just look at it. They clearly have no idea what the horror franchise stands for. What we want is a proper send-off for the beloved series. Get back together Yamaoka, Ito, and other members of Team Silent that made the game so great in the first place. Let them bury their amazing franchise with dignity that Silent Hill deserves. Hashtag one last time. Then we can finally say goodbye.
A train?
Let's stay in Japan a little while longer. There's this other amazing survival horror franchise that has lost its mojo over the years. What was it? Fatal Frame? Clock Tower? Forbidden Siren? Oh wait, I've got it! It was Resident Evil. Surprisingly, the series has come back from the dead once already, with the amazing Resident Evil 4. Still, the glory was short-lived, as none of the next Resident Evil games were good enough. Capcom is so lost that they don't even bother with sequels at this point. As recently, they focus on HD remasters and remakes. Resident Evil 0 HD and their recently announced Resident Evil 2 will certainly sell well, but you don't have to be a fortune teller to know that the franchise has no future at this point. There's no coming back after the travesty that was Resident Evil 6. Even if Capcom comes back to the series' roots, Resident Evil won't be what it once was. Now we have Amnesia, Outlast and such, and there's simply no room for Japanese-style survival horror games. Even if somehow Capcom miraculously revives the series, we still won't be able to get certain images out of our heads, like zombie firefights and Michael Bay-ish set pieces. Better let this one rot.
If they don't, and they get to Xanarkand, even if she defeats Sin, it will kill Uni too, you know?
4. Final Fantasy. Need we say more? Squaresoft's swan song was never intended to start a lucrative franchise, but it did. In the last 25 years or so, we've seen tens of Final Fantasy games, spin-offs and various crossovers. We still keep our fingers crossed for Final Fantasy 15, but seeing how Square Enix hasn't made a good Final Fantasy since 12 back on the PS2, and that they have been forced to sell remasters and cheap nostalgia trips, it just makes you wonder. Maybe it would be best if Final Fantasy was dead? A few years back, one of Square's officials said that they wouldn't make Final Fantasy VII Remake as long as they had ideas. Well, it clearly seems like they don't anymore. Just look at the freemium mess that was All the Bravest, and the fact that Final Fantasy-inspired Bravely Default is better at being Final Fantasy than other Final Fantasy in the last decade. And if I haven't used the name Final Fantasy enough in the last 30 seconds, let's just end with saying that we hope that the new Final Fantasy VII will be the final Final Fantasy. Please, Square Enix, don't ruin our nostalgia. Number 3. Tony Hawk. Back when Jackass was on MTV and pop punk wasn't a guilty pleasure music type, we all dreamed of being skaters. Over the years, we spent hours of grinding and doing sick tricks in various Tony Hawk games. Despite the fact that sometime around Underground 2, Tony Hawk was more about Bam Margera than Tony Hawk, we still had fun with those games. Slowly enough, the formula was becoming stale, and bizarre gameplay elements weren't enough to keep us hooked. Then Skate came, the new franchise from EA. Skate was fresh, original and engaging, and Tony Hawk couldn't keep up anymore. And when it seemed that the old-timer has passed away with dignity, Activision made Tony Hawk right. And what a mess that was. Seeing that Guitar Hero sold well, someone on Activision thought, hey, let's sell plastic overpriced controllers with other games. The new spin-off and its sequel sold poorly, and at that point we didn't want to see Tony Hawk ever again. But just like with Guitar Hero, Activision wants to bring back a franchise they've once almost ruined. Please, just don't.
You okay?
Most excellent.
Number 2. PacMan. Wait, they're still making those? Apparently, the arcade PacMan isn't the only one around. Namco has tried to make PacMan a timeless mascot, just like Mario or Crash Bandicoot, and how miserably have they failed. We had PacMan racing games, platformers, pinball games. Does anyone remember those? I think not. We really wanted to put Sonic on the list, but despite his latest failures, the Hedgehog still manages to surprise us every once in a while. However, PacMan? Well, that's a different story. Did you know there were over 30 PacMan games since the original? Neither did we, and we write about video games for a living. Seeing that Namco wants to keep the old Pacu alive with TV shows and the Ghostly Adventures franchise, we kindly ask, please, stop. Kids nowadays have Angry Birds and other things, and seeing Pacu trying to be edgy and hip and modern, it just makes us sad. PacMan, just let it go.
How far can we push technology?
I could not foresee this thing happening to you.
Before it starts pushing back.
Number 1. Call of Duty. What can we say? Call of Duty is a definition of a blockbuster franchise. The first games set in World War II were great, and then, out of nowhere, Modern Warfare came and changed the FPS market. However, since Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty seems to be declining. All we get is sequels with short and scripted campaigns, DLC, and multiplayer that relies on the same elements. Just like Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty seems to be losing its audience. People just want to play Battlefield because it's more fun and inspired. Even though Activision can give Guitar Hero or Tony Hawk some time to breathe, they won't let Call of Duty miss out on the holiday season release. Even though Activision can give Guitar Hero or Tony Hawk some time to breathe, they won't let Call of Duty miss out on the holiday season release. And sooner or later, the franchise will simply die. It will be a painful and long death. A demise this once original and captivating series does not deserve. Call of Duty should go back to its roots to World War II and quietly make its escape, or just end. More than often, the series is guilty pleasure for us, as we all complain about scripts, idiotic plot, and the explosions. The once great Call of Duty deserves better than that. And we don't mean Kevin Spacey.
Politicians don't know how to solve problems, but I do.
Okay, so those were our top 10 franchises that need to die. Please let us know in the comments below if you were right, wrong, or did we mention your favorites. And subscribe if you're willing to. Please visit GamePressure.com and see you around next time. Bye!